What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka the Senator of Chaos and Controversy, and as you can tell by the type of shirt I'm wearing, uh, the topic of conversation is going to go in an obvious direction, and it's going to touch base upon the discussion concerning, based on the question asked, Tony. Since you're all over the place when it comes to discussing matters in regards to law enforcement, where do you actually stand? Okay. Where do I stand? Well, in order for me to answer that question, I must say, from everything that has transpired from last year pouring over into 2021, okay, because we're almost done with this year. And with the whole Black Lives Matter and trying to bring awareness to a situation that has been long overdue to be addressed. And it was already foreseen that bringing awareness to this discussion was going to cause some kind of not only backlash, conflict, people being on one side and people being on the other side and whatever. But after looking at countless videos of police misconduct, where there are things or policies or laws put in place to protect law enforcement, and then you look at where the average citizen, where their position is when having these interactions with law enforcement. So I guess to address that is saying that when it comes to how we function in society, civilians are held at a higher standard than law enforcement. Because the things that law enforcement can get away with, you and I, we will either get cited, fined, detained, cuffed, put in jail, going through the court system, and probably be in prison. And that's just looking at it from a simplistic point of view. You know, I guess to put it in layman's terms, I guess the mentality of law enforcement is basically comes down to do as I say, not as I do. Pretty much, we can say and do anything to you, but you as a citizen cannot say or do anything to us because we are above you. And that's the type of attitude and mentality that they carry with them to the job. That's what I see for the most part when it comes to certain police, okay, and certain demographics, okay. They feel they are untouchable. You know, they work with a mafia-like type mentality. That's why I used to call them the Blue Mafia. You know, and people got highly offended when I made that reference. But if you look back in the day, how the mafia operated, especially when they were extorting money out of these businesses, what do you think law enforcement do to the civilians? They extort money based on these bullshit policies and these bullshit laws that are put into place. Okay? I mean, and then there's people that sit there and try to justify their position and their job duties and whatever. But you got to go back to look at the legislation. Like, again, a lot of people say when you're looking at certain things that is taking place in the world, is you're distracted by the smoke and mirrors while they're sitting and lobbying behind these damn laws that are being passed and stuff like that. I think the latest one that they were talking about in regards to like Florida was how they have something, I believe, where I guess in retaliation to you recording the police, they can say that you're acting unruly. You're part of an unruly mob. I don't say mob, but a crowd or whatever. So it justifies how they react towards you. And it's funny saying that, reacting, because that's what I was told under one of the comments in one of my videos, that police basically react when they respond to a call. You know, it's not like they go in and they try to be level-headed, because I guess that's not what they're trained to do. Go in with a sense of sensibility and assessing the situation for what it is. You know, they already come in with a prejudiced attitude. And I don't mean along the terms of just it being racial. I'm talking about the prejudice of trying to apply some kind of character to the person that they assume or suspect being at fault. Okay? I know a lot of the arguments around race, and it may be validated depending on what demographics you're discussing or referring to, where it could be justified in bringing it up as a talking point in a particular discussion. But as I pointed out, it doesn't just apply to the black community, because basically if you're in a poor community altogether, and you know that there are a lot of poor people as well as there are a lot of poor black people, poor Hispanics, and others, those are the areas that these police target, especially when they want to cite these infractions or write up these tickets so you can go to court and plead out, because they know you can't afford a lawyer. They know that. So yes, they do target certain areas and demographics to generate revenue, and it's off the backs of the poor. Unfortunately, you don't really see them doing that in these high class societies or neighborhoods. People that they know that has a leg to stand on and fight against them, they don't mess with them as much as they do the people who are poor. They don't. There was what was that I was looking at, because I found it interesting. People that had businesses. I know there was one story that was covered where it was one of those I want to say Pakistani. He had a lot of money in cash because he was about to go buy a rental property to start a business chain or something. He got pulled over, but because we had this war on drugs, I guess that's their excuse or justification to confiscate your money. Even though there is no drugs found on the person, just a large sum of cash, they assume that you're either a mule, a drug mule, or you're not entitled to having that amount of money, which is wrong. Especially if you don't have any proof proving that this person has any dealings or ties to the drug world. Because a lot of people do carry cash. And I said, and especially there was a big issue around tax time, where people go and cash their income tax checks. Oh, law enforcement was hitting people left and right, just automatically putting them into that category of, oh, you got to be affiliated with drugs or people selling drugs. And that gave them the right to confiscate your money. I mean, so it appeared to. But then when it started to get a lot of backlash, they then had to repeal that damn law. And so if somebody said that I was making this up, I'm like, nah. I said the beauty of YouTube is you can look these videos up. And it's by these, I know people say you can't trust the media, but hey, if you can't take my word for it, this is like years and years ago. This was like going back, I guess, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even further than that. But again, the premise that or my argument is that yes, civilians are held at a higher standard than those of law enforcement. There's more accountability that's placed in the lap of us than there is of those in law enforcement. And I don't think is balanced to the point where you have your tax money, your tax dollars go towards having this particular agency hire these people who our tax dollars go towards to employ, for them to turn around and target us for whatever intended purposes, and basically treat us like we're not even citizens in our own country. And then there's people that sit there and just assume that, well, hey, if you do what you're supposed to do, you wouldn't have these issues, you wouldn't have these problems. To an extent, yeah, I understand that particular point, but how do you excuse when you can't use that point? You just have an asshole of an officer or a corrupt department. Where's the validation of that point applied to those scenarios? No. And that's a big problem. And then we have some of these, how should I say, courts that are in the favor of law enforcement than they are of the average citizen. And that was the problem going back into the 80s, late 90s, up until where we are now, when there wasn't no camera phones or video recordings and things of that, as far as technology goes, because it was an officer's word against yours. You didn't have nothing to prove your innocence unless you had a lawyer that could fight, and you can afford that lawyer. Now you got the scales that are pretty much balanced, because now you got video recording. So if a cop say, "Oh, you spit at the cop," so that gave him the right to punch you in the face, step on your neck, dislocate your shoulder, break your leg. But then when the video recording comes out, it's just you said something that he didn't like. It challenged his manhood. It didn't show you spitting on him, but what you said was enough to trigger that officer to whoop your ass. And he could go back in the report and say that you assaulted him by spitting on him, which wasn't true. But there are people that still justify why a cop do what they do. And I say it's funny because, okay, say you get those people who say, well, you should have mouthed off at the cop. It still doesn't warrant a cop putting their hands on you. That's like me saying my son's mother, who we aren't together, but say she says something outside of her neck, right? And I didn't like it. Does that give me the right to go upside her damn head just because she said something that I didn't like? No. Because what would happen if I went upside her head? I would get arrested, right? But you say something that an officer doesn't like, he goes upside your head. Nothing happens to him. Well, people, they disrespect officers, okay, but you know what? Again, officers, they don't necessarily talk to people who they encounter with the utmost respect either. They talk to you any kind of way. I know. I've seen it. I've had it done to me. And what pissed them off even more is when I got to be getting called all these names out these officers' mouth. And I just said, okay. And I just put my head down and I just chuckled. That pissed them off even more. Because their name calling didn't piss me off. I just laughed at it. Oh, that pissed them off even more. So when you try to justify some of these behaviors of these officers to always just, if you did, just keep trying to pile on the list of excuses. As, again, me chuckling is not breaking the law. Just because it made an officer feel some kind of way. What did they say about caring about other people's feelings? I'm just saying. But again, like I said, if it was to where an officer was being disrespected just blatantly, and he wasn't doing anything to how should I say, escalate the situation, and it was all on that individual just being reckless, being disrespectful because he didn't have the proper upbringing or she didn't have the proper upbringing, and they were just like, okay. But again, you have some officers that they turn around, they just laugh and just like, this person's just simply just, there's no help for these individuals. And they just write them a ticket and move on. Those are officers that got thick skin because they know, you know what, they're just being assholes. There's no law against being an asshole. There isn't. I don't know. So for me to answer that question, for officers that, you know, I know at times their jobs can be trying. It could be difficult. It could be challenging. But they still know where the line is drawn to not cross it. Then there's officers who just don't give a damn. They're on a power trip. They don't care about your rights. They don't care about your well-being. They don't even care about the position that you maintain in your life. You could be the most law-abiding citizen. They don't care. Because they feel that they're better than you, that they are above you. And that's a problem. Again, we are held at a higher standard than they are. Now, I have the comment section provided. Tell me where I'm wrong. But I hope that answered that individual's question that asked me where I stood with law enforcement. I got videos that try to balance the scales to say there are good officers and there are bad officers. It's easy to distinguish the two. Anyway, I gotta go deal with my son because single fatherhood is just, whoo. I don't know how single mothers do it. I give y'all much props, especially if you got 4 or 5 kids, you ain't got no fucking help. But until next time, until next video, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me what you think. And you already know what I'm gonna hit you with.